All right, guys. So this is a part of a long-running fanfiction idea called My Adventure in the My Adventures with Superman universe. Essentially, what it is like making the other DC superheroes and making a version of them for the My Adventures with Superman universe. This started all the way back with My Adventures with Batman, and this is one character I've been wanting to do for the longest time. So without further ado, let's do My Adventures with Aquaman. So the story basically begins with Lois and Clark at the Daily Bugle, and they're seeing footage from. They're basically been following a story of several military naval vessels being attacked late at night, just off the coast of Metropolis. Like, this has been going on for 2 weeks, and at first people thought it was like undersea creatures or something, but no. This is something more like a military operation, and the government is starting to think maybe it's a foreign nation trying to make a move or something of that nature. But the problem is like it's all scattered around the waters around Metropolis. But every time they try to send divers down there, they either don't come back up at all or they just don't find anything. So it's an unknown foreign entity that is it's putting the whole world on edge at this point. 3 battleships torn to pieces, and a unknown foreign entity is possibly making a move against the U.S. government. Yeah. So the person behind, the person who's in charge of this military matter is General Eiling. Eiling has a bit of a discontent for superheroes. He actually worked with Waller for a while, and he's currently working really close with Lex. In fact, a lot of the battleships that have been attacked have been upgraded by LexCorp weaponry. Of course, Lois and Clark are not a fan of this, and anyone who was that close with Waller probably doesn't have the best intentions to begin with. But Eiling has been essentially Eiling has been saying like it's a foreign element, and we need to get ready for a war. And it's all like recordings. It's all like from interviews and stuff like that. And Eiling's been very adamant that like if a foreign agent shows up on the shores of Metropolis, the U.S. Army will deal with it, not a man from space. And Superman's like, and Clark's like, I really doubt that. I'm not gonna let Kara, because I'm setting this after like in between seasons 2 and 3 for this story. Should have mentioned that. But he's like, Kara and I aren't going to let that happen. And also, maybe we need to find this unknown army, this undersea army. And Lois is like, well, you heard Eiling. They can't, General Eiling. They can't really, find anything. And he's like, yeah, they can't find anything, but maybe Superman can. And Lois is like, that was really bad. And he's like, I know. I can't help it. So Clark changes into Superman, and he goes deep underwater. He's using like his vision, everything he can to like look deep into the ocean, and that's when like he gets surprised. He gets like just ambushed by this unknown force that hits him like a truck, and he's like, "Holy crap! I've never been hit that hard in a while." And like floating before him, with trident in hand, is Aquaman, and Clark can't talk underwater, but he's like, oh, he looks human. So Aquaman is just like he's just like, I know who you are, Superman. I'm giving you get out of my ocean. And Clark's just like, look, I don't he can't talk underwater, so he's like trying to signal, and he's like, oh, that's right, you can't speak underwater. Here, let me help you. And then he just uppercuts Clark out of the water and into the air. And using Clark just corrects himself midair. And that's when Aquaman uses the trident to make a water fountain to rise him up into the air. And he's like, this is your first and only warning, Superman. Stay out of my way. And Clark's like, I don't understand why you're doing this. Who even are you? And he's like, my name is Arthur Curry, and I know who you are. I know who exactly you are. You save the world, and you do a lot of good. So I'm giving you this one out. You stay out of my way until my business with General Eiling is done. And Clark's like, wait, you want General Eiling? Why? Why do you want to wage this war on him? And Aquaman's like, that's none of your business. Get out of my ocean. So before Clark can ask any more questions, Aquaman goes back underwater, and Superman's just kind of left there. He's like, yeah, going after that dude in his element is a bad idea. So this looks like a job for Clark Kent. So Superman goes back to the Daily Planet, and he's like researching the name Arthur Curry. And he finds out about Arthur Curry he doesn't get much. He gets his home in Maine, Amnesty Bay, and finds that like he was just a fisherman. He was like a fisherman and a sailor. And in this continuity, Arthur was a sailor who was under the command of General Eiling, along in a group called the Mantas. They were basically a black ops group who were advanced naval divers who ran sabotage and other forms, but they were broken up by the U.S. government after committing several, shall we say, horrible atrocities in the name of the country. So, and the reason why it was broke up was because Arthur basically revealed to the U.S. government, revealed all of Eiling's deeds with the Mantas. A week later, Arthur basically returned home and found that his father had been killed. This led to him, going missing. He went MIA shortly after his father's murder. So Clark's like, what doesn't explain, he's the way, and he's telling Lois all of this, and he's like, that he's not just some soldier, though I fought him. I've never been punched like that before. And Lois is like, you think he's something else like you? And he's like, he's gotta be. So he does a lot more research around. Clark goes as Superman to where Arthur grew up, and he meets someone who was like friends with Arthur and his father, and he's like, oh yeah, I knew them. Shame what happened to his dad, and I never saw Arthur again. But I never met their mom. I never met Arthur's mom. Yeah, his dad was always kind of antsy about it, but he always said she was like a free spirit and came from another country. And he's like, huh, okay. And while this is going on, Clark his super hearing goes off, and he hears that another boat is under attack. Like, he hears the mayday, and he's like, oh crap. So he shoots over there. Sure enough, Arthur's leading an attack with Atlantean soldiers on another battleship, and they're ripping through stuff. Superman has to fight them, and Arthur just shows up, and he's like, I gave you that warning, Superman. Now you have to face me and the entirety of the sea. And Clark's like, look, I don't want to fight you. I want to, I know, Eiling has something to do with this. I know that, but I need you to stop this. And he's like, stop this. And he just puts his head to his dad and is like, what are you doing? And sure enough, Aquaman calls this giant sea serpent that grabs Superman, grabs him and wrestles him underwater. Thankfully, however, as Clark is battling for his life against this sea monster, Kara shows up, just comes rocketing in at Mach fuck you, and just punches through the thing, saving Superman. And Superman's like, you didn't have to kill it, but he's like, I was trying to save you, Clark. That's what family does. So let's take out this Aquaman. And he's like, okay, all right. So Superman and Supergirl go back to the ship, but it's already torn to shit. But this time, however, they find an Atlantean who was wounded, and he was trying to escape, but Kara grabs him and choking him out, and Clark's like, no, stop. So they talk, and he's like, I'm not the Atlantean's like, I'm not going to tell you anything, surface dweller. Our king will be saved. And he's like, what king? where do you come from? And he's like, hey, in the name of Atlantis. And sure enough, Clark's like, holy crap, Atlantis is real. The Atlantean blows himself up. Thankfully, Kara and Clark are, invulnerable to the blast, but still. So now they're like, Kara and Clark are trying, alongside Lois, they go back, and Lois is helping, doing more research into Eiling and all the other deeds. Yeah, he did work with Waller, and Eiling was put on a task by Waller to look for what was believed to be Atlantis. That's what he was having the Mantas looking for before Arthur went AWOL. So Clark's like, he's like, yeah, I visited where he lived, and his dad apparently had a romance with a mom, and Jimmy's like, whoa, Atlantis is real, and someone slept with some kind of Atlantean princess or something. That's what this Aquaman is. And he's like, that's what they're called, like that's what the Daily Planet's calling him, Aquaman. So they're all putting it together when suddenly, Metropolis, like, alarms go off, and this time there's another sea monster that shows up, and this time with Atlantean armies. And it's the armies of Atlantis, and there is our Aquaman with trident in hand, and he's just like, people of Metropolis, I give you this one order: surrender General Eiling to me, and I will drown this city. So that he just had a show of force, goes back under, and Superman's like, no, this is going to stop right now. So he goes to face Aquaman again, and he's like, I want to know why you're attacking. When you endanger Metropolis, you make it my business. But what did Eiling do to you? And that's when Arthur just basically tells him, he has my brother. Eiling has captured my brother Orm. So this continuity is different, because in this story, Orm and Arthur aren't enemies; they're allies. In this storyline, Arthur explains that, like, yeah, my mother was the Queen of Atlantis. She met and fell in love with my father before being forced to go back and have Orm, my brother. But years rolled by, and Orm and I, I never held any, Orm and I never really had a rivalry. We were brothers, and I abdicated because I was the eldest. I was meant to be the king of Atlantis, but I abdicated the throne because I knew Orm was the better king. I couldn't live among them, but I made it, I couldn't get away from the sea. Like, the sea always called to me, no matter what. So he joined the military. He joined the Navy and was part of the Mantas under Eiling. He also, the other reason why he did it was like because he understood the assignment. He was like, oh shit, Eiling wants to find Atlantis, so I'm going to do everything in my power to stop that. But what happened was they were discovered. His mom was discovered, and Eiling, one of Eiling's soldiers, Arthur's commanding officer, killed his mom, and Orm was left on the throne, and Arthur went AWOL, revealing everything, kind of smooth things over. But in retaliation, his CO essentially was like, yeah, screw you, man. You don't get to, bust up our operation without consequences. So his CO killed his father. That CO is, yes, it's Black Manta. So Arthur explains the whole thing, that like afterwards the Atlantis was raided by the Mantas and Orm was kidnapped, and now Orm has been taken to somewhere else. I don't know if he's under Eiling. He's somewhere on these boats because he can't live that far. And they're also like trying to goad a war with Atlantis. Only reason I went back to Atlantis was to stop a war, stop a civil war. I got back on the throne, and now I need to find Orm because he's the only one who can keep the kingdom from falling apart. but you've also attacked my family, and Eiling needs to pay. My father, both my parents are dead, and I can't lose my brother. So if you want to help Eiling, you will face the full fury of Atlantis. And Superman's like, no, that's not happening. We'll stop Eiling together. So Superman basically makes Aquaman be like, look, I will help you fight. I will help you stop Eiling, but you have got to call off this army. And he's like, all right, 24. I will hold back the army for 24 hours, but the moment we are done, Atlantis will invade Metropolis. So Arthur and Clark team up, and they immediately go out to hunt down Black Manta, who has also been doing running missions with the other Mantas off the books for Eiling. So essentially, what happens is that Clark and Aquaman find him. They encounter the Black Manta and the other Mantas. They fight him, and Black Manta gets pinned to the wall by the Trident. And Clark's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" And he's like, "No, this man, I trusted you, man. I trusted you, dude. You killed my father. You let Eiling kill my mother, and now my brother's gonna get killed. I'm gonna kill you first." But Clark stops him, and they force him to talk where Eiling is holding Orm. Turns out he's holding him in LexCorp, and they've been experimenting on him. And Eiling has been so obsessed with going to war with Atlantis, he's trying to get the UN to sanction a war to go to war with Atlantis. And after Aquaman's whole declaration of war, the whole UN, and then he can plunder it for resources that he'll share with Lex. Also, if you're wondering, because the name probably sounds familiar but doesn't quite match it, Eiling is a character in the DC universe. You saw him in Cadmus, in the Cadmus storyline with in the Justice League cartoon, and he is also a villain called the General. Just wanted to, but I'm sure some of you guys picked it up. But some of you are thinking, is this an original character? But no. Anyway, getting back on topic, Eiling and Luthor have got they find out, oh crap, Superman and Aquaman are coming here. So they bust out weaponry, robots. Superman and Aquaman tear their way through it, and eventually they do get to Orm, who is just being tortured because Eiling's been torturing him for any kind of weaknesses or anything like that, for any defenses, and Lex has been helping him along with that. Lex kind of cleans his hands, basically saying, oh, I had no idea this was going on. Eiling gets brought to justice, but however, he's brought to Atlantean justice because you basically kidnapped a king, and the U.S. government's just like, we're just not going to bother with that. So Eiling is extradited to Atlantis to face Atlantean justice in the face of King Orm. And Orm's just like, I am going to enjoy this. So Orm makes also a big deal of the surface world is dangerous. But my brother is a sign, and so is the Superman, that not everyone on the surface world is a threat, and there can be hope for our nations. So maybe there's a brighter tomorrow for all of us. So Orm returns, and Arthur re-abdicates. He gives the throne back to him. He gives the Trident back to him. He's like, "You're the once again, Orm, you are the Ocean Master." And he's like, good. You would have made a great. That's what they call their king in Atlantis, the Ocean Master. So, and he's like that, and he's like, honestly, Orm, I never really thought that name kind of went for me. It went well with me. And he's like, well, what name do you want to call yourself? And if this was a movie, Arthur would smirk, and then it'd go to My Adventures with Aquaman. So there you go, guys. That is the My Adventures with Aquaman story. I really love doing these on occasion, and this was a lot of fun. So you guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of this fanfiction idea? Did you guys like it, hate it? Comment below, let me know. Other than that, I hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.